Whew, all right. It is time for a wild edible walk and talk. And friend, I am out of breath. I have been walking very fast. Oh, mercy. Anyway, I'm full. I had a very late lunch and ate way too much. And anyway, at my favorite place around the house here, and that is the trail. And I'm going to do a walk and talk about wild edibles. I do not do much editing, so I will pause this when it gets to a stretch where there is nothing and I have nothing to talk about. Wild edibles. This is February the 17th, so we are in winter time here in Northeast Georgia. And I want to show you just some of the excellent survival foods that are all around, friend. All around. You'll have to excuse me being out of breath. Okay. We have a huckleberry tree. I can tell by the bark, and I know these woods. But I can tell by the bark that it's a huckleberry or a sparkleberry. One or the other. I see that the berries are still hanging on, although shriveled up and almost gone. They are hanging on. So let's just take one. I'm going to take one and eat it. Now these will probably be somewhat kind of fermented, that taste, wine kind of taste. But let's see. I hope you can see it. Very woody. Teeny bit of fermented taste. It's got a tart to it, a tang to it. I would eat them though in a survival situation in the winter. I would eat those, that's for sure. I would eat a pretty good bit of them too. I sure would, because if I ended up getting sick because they were fermented or somewhat rotten or whatever you would say, that would be fine. It would just be maybe a stomach ache, not a bad one. I don't think anything would happen though. Now this is just stuff I do and would do. You need to consult with an expert before you go do it. All right, we have got the juniper tree. Now of course you can eat the inner bark, you can eat the berries, and you can eat the needles or the leaves. Make you a nice tea out of it, full of antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral properties in the leaves and in the berries. But what makes it a good food source is you can catch you a fish down at the lake in your survival situation, or a trout in a stream. You might get lucky and get you a deer. Well, you can season the meat with these berries. Season the meat and get you some tasty meat. This is where they get the smell, that gin, the alcoholic beverage. Gin, it gets its flavor from these berries. So you can have some gin tasting deer meat. Anyway, you'll have to excuse me. Man, I am still out of breath. All right, let's go down here. I know that there's some cactus here. All right, so we have prickly pear cactus. Now, if you're lucky, you'll find some fruit, even at this time of year, not on all of them, but on some of them. These are excellent size for eating. Watch those pricklies, though. They're terrible. Anyway, you can eat it raw or cooked. Got to scrape it, though. Got to scrape or burn. I would scrape, then burn. That's what I do to get the pricklies off. But it's on the fruit, and all the fruit are a purple when they're ready to eat. I seen some earlier, but didn't do a video of those. So this time of year, you can still find some fruit poking out there. It's almost spring. All right, so I do not edit. Oh, here we go. See that right there? Can you see the purple fruit? So I'm not going to edit anything, but I will pause this and get through the boring part. Hey, learn your wild edibles. It's so very important that we learn our wild edibles. These wild edible videos are my favorite to do, especially walks like this. But it's the least popular. People don't really care for them. I'm going to tell you what. I wish you could eat the false turkey tail. I wish it was like food. It is not. It is not. I wish it was, though, because it's everywhere. All right, let me pause it and move on through here. All right, so we have lichen. I've got videos on every one of these things. So I'm not going into detail on it, but you can scrape that lichen up and process it and eat it. It's a process, though. It's not what you would go for in a survival situation if you were moving, steadily traveling. But it is a food that you would eat, you would prepare and process it if you were staying in one location, that's for sure. That is lichen. Walking fast. All right. I'm a whole different person in the woods. I got home from work and I told my wife, I said, I got to get to the woods. I've got to get out. I got to get into the woods. And it's just such therapy. It's unbelievable. Such therapy. I love it. I love the woods. Love the woods. Anyway. All right. Let's go down through here now. This is the kind of area where you're going to find partridge. And you can eat partridge leaves, cook them up a little bit, eat them just like you would a potter, make tea out of them. Or if you're lucky and patient, you will actually find a partridge berry or two or three or a dozen. But this time of year, you've got to do like the deer and the wild animals and kind of scrape through. Now this is partridge leaf throughout here. And you can make a tea out of it, cook it up, eat it like a pot herb. Oh, I see a red. I see a red. There we go. Looky, looky. Look at that. Look at that. Partridge berry. Oh, yes. Oh, there's another one. Right here. See, so in the wintertime, it doesn't hurt to pull the leaves back, looking for something to eat just like an animal. All right. Ooh, another one. Right here. Look. Look at that. I'm not going to eat these. I've ate them before. I'm just not going to eat them. There's not enough for me in the wildlife. So, anyway, well, let's see. All right, so we got the hickory tree. Sorry about that. I don't know if that's it. Oh, maybe both of those. Maybe all of those. I see hickory nuts. We see the animals have been in them. Huh? So we know that there's some hickory nuts still around here for sure. If the worms haven't got them. There we go. You could crack that open and see what's there. Oh, yeah. You can actually take that hickory bark and, work it and some water and make you a little drink, a tea out of it. but so hickory nuts here and there. The same with the acorns. There's still going to be some acorns around. Of course, you can use that. You can use this for string, twine, whatever you. Man, what is the name of that plant anyway? Oh, let's see. All right, we're going to pause it again and then carry on so it's just not too boring. All right, so remember the pine tree. You can eat the inner bark of the pine tree. And then you can take those needles and make a tea out of it. Oh, yes. Excellent winter survival food. Yeah, so the yucca, I couldn't even think of the name of it a minute ago. The yucca, twine, rope, whatever you want to. It's a process, but anyway, we're going to pause it. There's some other folks traveling through here. All right, we have lion's mane right here. It can be cooked up. It's a process, but this can be cooked up and eaten. And it is still very good, still moist. Something's been messing with it. Lion's mane. Oh yeah, still good. Be a nice chunk of food right there for you in a survival situation. Oh yeah, right there. Anyway, put it on pause. Folks walking through, I didn't want them to hear me running my mouth. Look, you don't even have to go search for it. Pine needle tea right there. Yummy, yummy. That is something I drink every now and then, just for the fun of it, just for the taste of it. Now also, you need to not just look down, but you need to look up. You need to be looking for a Greenbrier. And then you follow, and then if it's winter time, that's what we're talking about here. Winter time, you follow that vine down to the ground, dig up the root, and have yourself a feast. All right, let's pause just for a moment. All right, we are back, and we have Greenbrier. Now that's a nice little vine, and it stays green all year, so they're easy to spot. Pretty tangled up here. We would follow this down, and we would dig up the root, and the more tender parts of the root we would cut up and cook up and eat. And the more fibrous, woody parts, we would work them into a drink. Yes, boil them, work them into a very starchy, delicious drink. Let's see. Make sure we are not missing anything. Seems like there was something here that I wanted to show you by the bridge. Anyway, not here. Hey, it is so important. I know I say it over and over. It is so important that we learn our wild edibles. Greenbrier. Now, although it's winter time, The young leaves are the best, but although it's winter time, I think I would cook those, try to cook them down and make them edible. The young tender ones are awesome, and the tender shoots are awesome. That's for sure. Alrighty. We're at 15 minutes, so I'm going to pause this one more time. Alright, so we have gotten into an area that has lots of pines. Lots of pines, and of course, pine needle tea, but also the inner bark of the pine tree. Cooked up right, cooked up good and crispy, is an excellent survival food. It's an okay anytime food. Woo! Not sure if that's a huckleberry. It's hard to tell with it being so small, but I do believe it could be. And you can make a tea out of those leaves. If it is, yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Because here's one here. Yeah, you can make a tea out of these leaves. I don't know if it would be good in the winter though. Just not sure about that one. You know, because leaves tend to get, even the evergreens tend to get very tough in the winter, and all the goodness goes down to the roots in the fall. That's why it's called fall, because it falls to the roots, all the goodness of the plants. Not sure what that green is there. Wow, I don't know what that is. Looking for winter wild edibles. And it's getting scarce as we get more into the thick, woodsy pines. Okay, this is a Greenbrier right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's about 8 vines here. So I know, especially right here, if I was to dig right here, I would find, not going to disturb it, I would find a massive root. Lots of food. Lots of food. Oh yes. And we've got the mock strawberry pot herb throughout here. It can be cooked up and made into a pot herb, or you can make tea out of the mock. Some folks call it Indian strawberry. And I'm missing just tons of stuff here. But that's what happens when you're walking around. Now, any oak tree, you're going to want to look for acorns, of course. There will be some leftover acorns that the worms haven't got and that the squirrels have not got. All right, so we've got a dogwood. I do believe it's got moss on it, but it looks like a dogwood, which is an excellent aspirin substitute. That is the inner bark. About that much, about the size of your pinky. Inner bark, chew on it, and it's a pain reliever, a painkiller. Oh, mercy. All right, I got this big hill to climb. I'm going to pause for just a minute. Well, let's walk for a second. All right, so we know we've got a beech tree right here. Right here. That golden, bright, vibrant, tan look of leaves that stay on through the winter. Now there's an oak right there that has the dreary medium brown color. You can tell the difference. Inner bark of the beech. Inner bark, edible. So there's food everywhere. Look. What is this called? It slips my brain. Second time today. Anyway, you can cook that up into a soup. Yes, you can cook that and make a soup out of it. I know it doesn't look good. I'll put the name of it in the description. Sorry, just off the top of my head, can't think of it. I've got a video on it though. It's very edible. Amber jelly roll. That's it. Amber jelly roll. Or jelly roll fungus. That's it. Needs to be cooked though. You've got to cook it. And you can make you some good like a soup. Wonton soup. Whatever it's called. That some people make a Chinese soup out of it. But you can put that with other stuff that you find in the woods in the winter time and have you a halfway decent meal. You will be able to survive. I promise you that. Listen, it's so important that we learn our wild edibles. You think of a horrifying situation. Watch some of the end of the earth movies, World War Z. Just anyone you can think of. I Am Legend, War of the Worlds, and it goes on and on. You watch some of those movies, and you'll understand that in a shift situation, knowing your wild edibles is very, very important. Knowing your wild edibles is very, very important. It is. All these pine needles, all this green, loaded with vitamin C. There we go. There's a dogwood for sure. This is a dogwood for sure. That much of the inner bark.